Okay, so today's episode on the HX 1 tonner build, we're going to do some rust repairs on one of the doors, so the right hand side door and also the guard, so the left hand side outer guard. So since the last episode, I started fitting this front end together and I was starting to gap it, but I had a lot of comments saying that I should hang the doors first, get that all lined up and then start gapping the front. Which makes complete sense. Like, the cabin doesn't move, so you want to get the doors fitted and then adjust the doors, get all them right, because the doors are attached to the cabin, and then from then you just work your way forward and then gap everything from the rear and then work your way forward. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to start hanging these doors, but I do need to get some repairs done, so we'll jump straight into it. So I've just pulled the left-hand guard off, so I think what I'm going to do is tackle this section here. I'm thinking I might just cut this out. That's a little bit confusing, but I'll just follow sort of this line here and cut that out. I'll leave that material here and here. Okay, so that patch is all made up and I have zinc primed the back side of it. So that sits in there pretty nicely. So I'll go around and tack that in. I don't want to put too much heat into this area because there's no strength in here and it's going to warp pretty easily. So I will just tack it in and then work my way around, putting little tacks everywhere and cool it down at the same time and just try to minimize the heat that goes into this area. Okay, so this left-hand outer guard is all been repaired now. So I've filled in all these holes along here and there. So what I've done with them was I just done a tack on the hole and then gone on to the next hole, done another tack and then another tack, and then just kept rotating until the holes were filled up with the weld. So yeah, that worked out pretty good because just didn't want to put too much heat into there. This section here, so that came up pretty good. It did warp a little bit just here, but I was able to hammer and dolly that section out. So just used the hammer and a dolly and that warpage sort of came out. So yeah, that's pretty good now. So I also just filled up, sort of built this little bit up here with weld, just because I know that that line wasn't meeting up with the seal panel. So I've just built that up a little bit, so I'll see how that looks once I put it back on. And then done a bit of hammer and dollying around this section here. You can see that there's some kind of sort of scratches or scrapes or something. I don't know what that was, but anyway, I just tried to hammer and dolly that a little bit and it's a little bit better, but I think I'm not really going to get it much better than that. So around here, I also just built up this area here with weld just to tighten that gap up where it meets the cowl. So I'll fit this on and see what it all looks like. Okay, so on this right hand side door, this corner section is rusted, so I've just cut this section out here, and as you can see in there's rust on the inside, so I'm going to have to repair that. If I leave that, that's going to bug me. So what I'm going to do is cut this whole corner section out so I've got access into there, and then I'm going to repair in there. It doesn't have to be pretty in there because you're obviously not going to see it, but I want to put some strength in there. So I'm gonna, yeah, what I've done is I've sort of drilled out these spot holes along here and in here. So I'll just cut along here and then hopefully that section will pull out. And then I'll repair the inside. And then I'm gonna repair this corner section. So I'll just use this existing piece and then I'll probably just cut that little bit out there, weld a new patch in there, might cut a little bit out there and then yeah, weld some new steel in there as well. You can buy from Rare Spares patch repairs, the inner sections that go along this whole section here. But I don't really think it's worth buying one just to repair this area here. The rest all seems good. So yeah, all in there seems good. So yeah, I don't think it's really worth buying one of them patch repairs. I'll just repair this section here. Okay, so that piece is cut out. So as you can see, yep, it's pretty rusty in there. So I'm gonna have to cut this section out and make a new patch to weld in there. I'm gonna have to cut sort of roughly along here just so I can weld to this piece here. But as you can see, that's pretty pitted. So it's not gonna be the best steel to try and weld to. But I sort of don't really have any other option unless I cut further back up here, but I don't really want to do that. So I'll give it a go trying to weld to this piece here. And down here is going to be kind of a bit shit to try and weld to as well, just because it's, yeah, so badly sort of rusted, but we'll give it a go. So yeah, I'll cut a piece out, make up a patch and then go from there. Okay, so I've just made up that piece and tacked it in. So I just used a piece of cardboard to make the template up. Doesn't have to be super nice, you're never going to see it, just as long as there's the strength back in that door. And then that will just sit over the top and then can spot weld into there again. Okay, so that inner piece is welded in and I've just coated it with the zinc primer. So onto the outer piece now. So what I've done with this piece is I've just cut that section out of there. So this is the piece I want to keep. So I'll replace that piece, that's the Swiss cheese. And I've just made up this patch to weld into there like so. Okay, so that section's all repaired now, so yeah, it come out not too bad. Obviously, you're never gonna see all that. As long as the seal sits nicely in there, which I think it will, then yeah, that should be all good. So yeah, there's plenty of strength back in there now. All new steel underneath as well. So moving on to the mount for the top hinge. So you can just see that this has been repaired previously, but it's all cracked again. So yeah, you can see that something's been welded in, and yeah, it looks like they've just welded a plate over the top and welded that to the outer skin, which is not ideal. And then yeah, last night I just noticed there was a bit of silicone in here and I gouged that out, and then I just found that all that was just all bogged in there. So I've tapped that bog in and yeah, there's just rust in there. On the inside, I took a photo with the phone camera, so I'll put that up on the screen now. I just can't get this camera in there to show you, but you can just see all in there is rusted away. So yeah, there's basically no strength in that section anymore. So I think the cause of all this cracking on the mount is just caused because there's no strength behind there. So it's definitely going to have to be repaired, or otherwise this is just going to keep happening, which is a little bit unfortunate because I just spent ages fixing this, and if I knew between that repair and that, I would have probably just tried to source a new door. But now I've kind of spent a fair bit of time repairing that, and now I'm like, well, do I just try and repair that, or yeah, source a new door? It's a bit of a weigh it up, I suppose, but I guess there's no harm in attempting. I think what I'm going to do is try and cut the front of the skin to give access behind there to have a look and come up with a bit of a plan to try and add some strength in there. And then yeah, and then afterwards I'm still gonna have to cut this out and try and weld a new piece in there and try and get everything all still lined up, because any slight movement or if this is slightly out, is just gonna cause heaps of issues when trying to line up the door. So I've got to get this right. So that outer skin's been removed and I've got pretty good access in here now. So as you can see, it is a dog's breakfast. You can see that it's all rusted here. So they've welded a plate over the rust previously, so that doesn't surprise me with everything else that's been repaired dodgily on this ute. So yeah, this is going to be quite a bit of a challenge, I think. But I think I'll be able to do it. I'm going to tackle it in 3 stages, I think. I'll just start doing this section here, and then I'll do this section here, and then I'll do that section there as the 3rd stage. Just because I don't want to lose any of this shape. So yeah, I think when it comes to this, I might potentially just gouge out all the cracks and just try and re-weld them in, just because, well, I've got access to both sides, so this side and that side, so I can weld on both sides. I can hammer and dolly, gouge out the steel, get all new sort of welds in there and grind it back, and then I might be able to sort of fish plate and add a bit of strength on the inside. Yeah, I just don't want to cut this out and yeah, not get it aligned correctly. So, but anyway, I'll worry about that after. I'll start with these sections and go from there. Okay, so I've just welded that first section in. So I've just butt welded it to here, and that's actually welded in pretty good there. And I've also welded to this piece here. So that's already given strength there. So coming underneath, so yeah, that's the new piece that I've welded in. And then this piece here, so that is a plate that they've just welded over the top of the steel. So I'll cut that out now. I'm gonna use this edge here. I'm gonna keep this and reuse this here. And then yeah, basically just cut out that and then weld in a new plate in there. Okay, so with this section here, I've just decided to weld up all the cracks. So what I've done is just hammer and dollied this so it's nice and flat, and so that it just follows, follows that line there. So that's, yeah, all sitting nice and flat now. And then what I've done is gone around the cracks with a die grinder and just gouged them out. And then I've just welded them on the inside here. I've welded them pretty hot, so I've got some good penetration. So if you can see on this side here, you can just see there that it's come through and penetrated on the other side. Yeah, there we go. So yeah, them cracks hopefully should all be welded together. So I'll grind that back and then see what it looks like. I might even weld some on this side as well. So because I've got access to both sides, I can weld this side as well. But yeah, we'll see what it looks like once I grind it back. And then yeah, I think that's going to be pretty good. That's definitely going to be pretty strong, I reckon. I don't think there was any need to cut that out and weld in a new patch, because it just would have been a pain in the ass to try and get that aligned up. So yeah, I think that's going to be fine. Okay, so that's all welded up now. So pretty stoked with how that's turned out. Seems to be plenty of strength in there now. So I'll flip this over and I'll have a look at the other side. And I might need to just weld some weld on the other side and then grind it back and get it all nice and smooth. So I'll flip it over. Okay, so this is what the other side looks like. So I'm actually really happy with that. So I think that looks original. I was looking at the other door and that looks pretty much bang on original now. So yeah, so I think what I might do, I'll just grind this back. I might put a bit more weld along here and then grind it all smooth. I might put a few more welds on this side just to, you can see sort of like little areas like that. I might just try and yeah, get that a little bit smoother just to make sure that there is no more cracks left. Yeah, obviously smooth that off. And then yeah, I can look at fitting this skin back on. Okay, so this repair is all done on the inside. So I just sprayed some rust converter. So I just used some of this. So that, yeah, just an aerosol rust converter. I sprayed a couple of coats on, let it dry overnight, and then I've sprayed some primer over the top of that. So I can basically start welding this skin back in. So I've gone around the edges to get it to bare steel and on the door as well. So yeah, I can start welding this in. Sits in nice still. So yeah, I think that's going to turn out not too bad. Okay, so that skin is welded in, grinded back, and I've just sprayed some primer over the top. So yeah, pretty stoked with how that's turned out. I think, yeah, it's come out pretty good. It's obviously gonna need a layer of body filler, but yeah, I think it's only gonna be minimal. But yeah, overall, I think it's pretty good. It's always daunting cutting into areas like this where you see outside the car, like these skins and stuff. But I think if you take the time, be patient with it, try not to put too much heat into it, get it lined up properly, then yeah, it works out pretty good. So yeah, one thing to note is I used a 1mm cutting disc, and the gap when it made it up was probably a little bit larger than ideal, but I still managed to get it welded in. But if you use anything larger than a 1mm cutting disc, you're gonna have troubles welding that back in. So yeah, just make sure you use a 1mm cutting disc. So yeah, I think that's turned out to be pretty good. There seems to be plenty of strength in here now. Hoping this doesn't crack again. I think it should be fine now that there's plenty of strength in there. So yeah, that's one door saved. Looking back, like I was thinking about trying to source another door, but you know, with these things getting you know, a lot older and probably harder to find good doors in reasonable condition these days, it's probably a good thing to be able to document this and put it on YouTube for other people to see how it's done and try and have a go at repairing their doors. So I guess, yeah, as they're going to get older and older, it's going to be a lot harder to find doors, and people are going to have to start repairing them. So it's probably not a bad thing getting it documented for people to have a look to see how it's done. I don't know if it's, you know, there's plenty of ways to do things, but I think looking back at it, it looks pretty daunting. But if you just sort of cut the steel or cut the rust out and then sort of tackle it piece by piece, it all sort of comes together. And yeah, it wasn't actually as bad as what I thought it was going to be. So just a bit of time, probably 2 days, 2.5 days to get it done. But anyway, I think that was worth it. It's yeah, like I said, that's one door saved now. Okay, so I've got these doors hung, and yeah, it's a bit of a bitch doing that by yourself. But anyway, I've got them on and adjusted up. Now they're not too bad, so the gaps are okay-ish. The gap on this back here, it's pretty good. Just, it's a bit thicker here, so that'll need tightening up. The bottom is pretty good. The gap here is pretty good, except it's a little bit thicker, so that'll need tightening up. The around here is going to need adjusting up and sort of filled, and bit of attention there. But that gap on that sill panel, that'll need adjusting up. So you can just see that that follows the door nicely, that guard. But yeah, that sill panel, that one, that's off. So I'm gonna have to do something there, probably sand it back. And there was a little bit of filler I put in there, so I might be able to sort of sand it back slightly just to get that right angle. But yeah, that door is pretty good. It's just gonna need a little bit of work to get it perfect. But this other side, yeah, it's pretty good. There is an issue with it that I'll show you in a second. So this gap here is good. The sill panel follows that pretty well. The back of the door is pretty good. That line, that's a nice line there. But there is one issue with this sill panel. So if you can see, so that door right there in that corner is flush with the cabin and the other corner is flush as well. But if you can see that sill panel just sinks in. So the doors is sort of sticking out and the middle of that sill panel is just sunken in. So it just looks like shit. So I need to try and fix that. I've put a straight edge on the door and the door's flat, but I'll show you once I open up the door, but when you stick a straight edge along here, you can just see that there's a gap in the middle, it's probably about 4 or 5 mil in the middle there. So yeah, it'll need fixing, otherwise that's just gonna bug me. So I don't really know how I'm gonna fix that. I was sort of thinking I might be able to get a 1 mil cutting disc and cut all the way along this sort of edge, and then get a spoon in behind it and just kind of pry it out and get it straight with the straight edge, and then I'll be able to fill that back in with some weld. So that's sort of one thing I was thinking, because the actual bottom of it is not too bad. It's not perfect, but it's definitely not as bad as the top edge. So yeah, I think if I can try and pry out the middle all the way along, get that square, and then I might be able to try and get the bottom out a little bit too. And then, yeah, once I weld that in, and I guess a bit of filler might be able to take care of the rest of it to kind of get it flat and follow that door. So yeah, not really sure yet, but if you do have any suggestions, if anyone has any suggestions on how to maybe fix that, ideally I don't really want to take the sill panel off. And just one thing to note, the sill panel was already done before me buying this thing, like back in the day. So I didn't do the sill panel. I thought the sill panel looked pretty good, so that's why I never replaced it. So yeah, it's just a shit job when they've replaced it. They just haven't got it nice and flat. So anyway, but I guess the rest of it, yeah, it's all not too bad. It's just going to need a bit of time and a bit of work to get everything nice and uniform. So hopefully this video has given a bit of insight on how to fix the doors and the front guards of the H series. I think it was definitely worth fixing that door so it was documented, and I'm hoping this video is going to save some doors in the future. So at the time of recording, I'm about 40 subscribers off from 3,000, so I'm pretty sure when this goes live I've probably hit the 3,000 subscribers. So a big thank you to you guys for supporting the channel and subscribing, watching the content. It's been roughly about a year since I put up my first video, and 3,000 subscribers in a year. I'm super stoked on the progress of the channel. So yeah, big thank you to you guys for supporting the channel. So if you do want to support the channel further, then I do have a merch store. So I've got t-shirts, there's a couple different design t-shirts, there's hoodies, there's mugs, yeah, various products there, different colors. So yeah, I'll put a link to the merch store in the show notes below. So yeah, click on that link and that'll take you to the merch store. So yeah, once again, big thank you for the milestone of 3,000 subscribers. And yeah, we'll see you next time on Shenke Garage. Cheers guys.